April the 23rd, 2018. Invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Wilcox.
Lord God, guide us by your wisdom and give us the courage and strength to serve your will. Help us to conquer anger with gentleness. Help us to forget ourselves and reach out to others. Help us to be diligent in our work and blameless in our speech, and to have our life well ordered. Teach us to realize that this life is passing and our true future is in happiness of heaven. That life on earth is short and the life to come eternal. Grant us the serenity to accept the injustices that we cannot change, the courage to change the injustices that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of Council's regular business meeting for March?
Madam President, I move to approve the minutes of Council's regular business meeting of March 26, 2018, as submitted to each member of Council.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the minutes. Are there any questions or comments or changes that need to be made in the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as they are, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. I have one announcement, and that is Tuesday, April the 24th, 6:30, 9:30 is our sensitivity training through empathy for all individuals that are involved in any of the committees or the boards, and also for council members, and that's this Tuesday.
Okay.
At this time, we would like to present the Officer of the Year Awards.
Madam President, thank you. Good evening. If you do not know me, my name is Dave DeSanti. I'm the Chief of Police here. It is my privilege and honor tonight. At the end of last year, our command staff, we were discussing ways that we could progress with the police department. One of the ideas that was favorably embraced by all our command staff was to start an Officer of the Year Recognition Award. This year, eligible candidates came from the Patrol Division. I wanted to recognize the officers in uniform out there every day delivering the service to our community. These officers go above and beyond their normal duty dedication. I wanted to recognize proactivity, loyalty to the community, and actively trying every day to serve in a special, meaningful way. We decided, the command staff, that we would nominate 3 officers. Each command staff officer submitted a synopsis about the 3 officers, and after a careful analysis of the nominations, we had a dead heat tie for this year's first annual Officer of the Year Award. I also met with my good staff, and we had several nominations, and thanked them, and I know that they may be getting this award in the future. Tonight we're here to honor those 2 fine officers at Town of McCandless Police Department, Officer Michael Cheberenchik and Officer Michael Metzger. They have both shown a special quality and dedication to duty, working diligently to ensure our department can be the most professional it can be. They have both excelled in many areas, are well-rounded, versatile officers, continue to do good things to make a difference in people's lives every day. They both come with a positive attitude and energy that I respect and revere. This award, when we sat down with our command staff, is dedicated to Officer Albert Devlin, a police officer that lost his life in the line of duty here in McCandless on January 8th, 1973. Al's son, an Allegheny County prison guard, is here tonight in the audience. Al, I thank you for being here. This will be called the Al Devlin Memorial Award. I'd also like to recognize some distinguished people that have traveled here to be here tonight on this special occasion. Michael Fiscardo. Michael is a Weirton, Virginia Police Department, West Virginia police officer who was injured in the line of duty and is Michael's father-in-law. And he traveled to be here tonight. Sir, it's an honor that you're here. And thank you for your service and your sacrifice in which you have done. I also would like to recognize Robert Caneth. Bob is a retired inspector of the Allegheny County Police and is the brother-in-law of Al Devlin. And Bob is with us. I go way back with Bob when I was a kid. He served with my father when my father was a police chief and well-respected professional. I'd like to just take one quick moment of silence to think about all those officers that have served McCandless over the years, including Al Devlin. And just give us a please brief moment that we can keep them in our thoughts. I thank you. I would like at this time, Councilman Swagger, would you please join me for the presentation? And I would like to have Nicole and Michelle, would you please come up? And I have a Officer of the Year pin, which I would like you to proudly pin on your spouses. At this time, Sergeant Basil, will you join us? This is the plaque that for this first annual award, which we look forward to presenting every year in honor of the Al Devlin Memorial Award. And this is the plaque that will appear in our police station corridor. We all consider it a privilege to serve, and I continue as the leader of the police department to do everything I can to make sure that we serve you, our community members, in a meaningful way. I thank you very much. I want to congratulate these recipients, and I just want to see if you guys want to say a quick word, but congratulations.
Good evening. I'd just like to thank Chief DeSanti for acknowledging the hard work that Officer Metzger and myself have put in over the past year. It's nice to know that hard work is appreciated, and I would also like to acknowledge the hard work the Chief himself, although not capable of receiving this award, has certainly put in himself over the past year and a half that he's been here, and I commend him as well for the effort that he's put in, and I thank him.
Okay, Michael's not going to speak. Consul, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for giving me the opportunity to do this. One of the things that I'm passionate about is recognizing my team, my good team members, and I appreciate that each and every one of you give me this opportunity. And that's all I have. I know you have a busy meeting, and I respectfully thank you for that.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move to adopt Resolution Number 8 of the 2018 series, a resolution celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Northland Public Library.
Second.
There's been an motion and a second for celebrating the 50th anniversary of our wonderful library. Any comments? Any questions? Anything from the audience? All those in favor?
Oh, wait, we got something. Oh, no, never mind.
It was a waving.
I thought someone was saying,
starting to wave.
I thought someone wanted to talk.
That's good.
Okay.
Be appropriate.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting this resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
May I present Amy Steele,
Please.
our Executive Director of the Library, with this plaque of gratitude and resolution. Amy, would you join me? If I may, official Town of McCandless Resolution Number 8 of 2018, a resolution celebrating Northland Public Library's first 50 years as a wonderful community resource to its residents, guests, and partner municipalities. Whereas Northland Public Library has been many things and meant so much to its member communities, Bradford Woods Borough, Franklin Park Borough, Marshall Township, Ross Township, and the Town of McCandless, since its founding 50 years ago. Whereas Northland Library, with its panoply of programs, materials, and technology, educates and enriches our lives every time we walk through its doors. And whereas Northland nurtures knowledge and learning while serving as a source of enjoyment and exuberance, a place of gathering and interaction, a refuge of solitude, reflection, and peace. And whereas Northland Public Library is all this and more, embodies the spirit of our community. Now therefore, be it resolved, and it is hereby resolved, that the Town of McCandless celebrates with Northland, our partner communities, and all residents and guests, its rich and storied history. May it continue to keep us on its path of knowledge, culture, and recreation. We further commend Northland's leadership for its 50 years of insightful and prudent direction of this most wonderful community resource. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All good with that?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam President, I move to adopt Resolution Number 9 of the 2018 series, a resolution celebrating the 50th anniversary of the McCandless Athletic Association.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the McCandless Athletic Association. Any comments? All those in favor of this indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
This resolution will be presented on Saturday at the Vincentian Field at the opening of the summer program. I would like to mention at this point also that McCandless is very proud to have had both the library and the Recreation Association in our town for 50 years, and they've done a tremendous job. And I think that we should give them a hand.
That's at 9:45 this Saturday, for those who would like to attend. Reports of the committee, the zoning committee chair.
CVEST has proposed a text amendment to the zoning code to allow it to build a small format hospital in McCandless Crossing West on a 5.59 acre site that is roughly located at the corner of McKnight Road and Duncan Avenue. So as you're going up from Perrymont on McKnight Road, it's to the next, you go to the next site, that's Duncan, and it's the pro site is right there on the left-hand side. I'm okay with this part. Since the hospitals are currently only allowed in an I-institutional district, and McCandless Crossing is part of a development performance zoning district, the proposed text first seeks, after defining a small format hospital, to allow a small format hospital in a development district. In other words, it can go in McCandless Crossing, which is a development district. I'm okay with this part of the proposed change. The development district has a maximum height requirement for buildings, and it is that it can't be higher than 60 feet. CVES's proposed text amendment states that the maximum height is to be 65 feet for a small format hospital. I'm okay with this part of the proposed change. CVES wants to change parking in that it sets forth a parking requirement in the case of a small format hospital, and I'm okay with this proposed change. Finally, the proposed amendment seeks to amend those sections of the zoning code that affect resource protection land. One of the purposes of resource protection land is to act as a buffer between, for example, the commercial developments in McCandless Crossing West and the surrounding neighborhoods, say, for example, Ridgemont and Haw Drive. Currently, there is a 15.21 acres of resource protection land located on the west side of Duncan Avenue. So as you go up, as you turn left on Duncan Avenue at the light, you go up, and on the west side or right side of Duncan Avenue, below those two neighborhoods is 15.21 acres of resource protection land. While the small format hospital project will not affect the 15.21 acres of resource protection land, the proposed text amendment of certain sections has a possibility, at least in my mind, of affecting a new land development plan, a new land development plan with its resource protection land in it. I've suggested that CVEST accommodate the town's concern and remove those provisions. CVEST could then go before a zoning hearing board with respect to resource protection land issues, and thereby get the zoning hearing board to eliminate those issues without the need of an amendment to the zoning code. Therefore, until CVEST's proposed text amendments for this project eliminates the provisions that amend our town's resource protection land provisions, I move to table CVEST text amendments.
The motion has to be made first before it can be
We need to
tabled.
have a motion before it can be
You do.
tabled?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll need to do is for someone to make this motion, and then,
Second.
You have an
Didn't
opportunity
Greg
then-
just do
and
that?
then-
to on the table that once the
Okay.
motion's been made.
okay. All right, do you want to make this motion?
Okay, I'll move to proceed with the consideration of a request from CVEST Healthcare Properties to allow a small format hospital within the McKnight Road development district, and scheduling of time, public hearing after completion of reviews by the Allegheny County and the Town of McCandless Planning Commission. This request proposes to modify the resource protection section of the development ordinance to allow substitution of an off-site land at a 2-to-1 ratio with no less than 2 acres substituted for resource protection land, which would be altered for this proposed project.
I second the motion.
Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. We have already had some discussion. Is there any further discussion from anyone on council? Any discussion from anyone from the audience?
Hi, I'm Dusty Elias Kirk, and I'm representing CVEST. And how we tried to address your concern is by adding in that any changes of areas that are resource protection and are already redeveloped or need to be redeveloped would be a conditional use approval. And the reason that this is so important is CVEST is developing these small format hospitals as part of bringing health care close to home. And the reason that we're reluctant to go to the zoning hearing board is because of the time constraints that we're under. So, CVEST is proposing this hospital would be taxable, and it needs to be up and operating by May of 2019 because there's a consent decree that will, in effect, limit a lot of people's access to health care close to where they live or their ability to really go to different hospitals based on a consent decree that's between UPMC and Allegheny Health Network. So this is why we're here. It's really critical that this hospital get up and running. So, and it's in your comprehensive plan, I know, that you're in the process of doing. When we looked at that, that was one of the things that your community wanted, is health care in your neighborhood. So that's why we're here. It's really critical. And right now, in order for this hospital to be built and up and running, we need this text amendment. We need to start our land development approval. And it's going to take at least a year to build this facility. So that's why this is so critical, and that's why we're here. So we really ask that you consider the changes that we've made. We've listened to you all. We've tried to make this as responsive to your concerns as we possibly can. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, well, if there's any chance that this could affect resource protection, the resource protection land that's there, the 15.21 acres, I don't want to take that chance. And I feel that I don't feel easy with this language. I mean, I know what you've done. You've done the best that you can do, but I still don't feel easy with the language.
Well, the way we have changed it, and I understand your concern, is that anybody who would want to change a resource protection would have to come to this town council, and it would be a conditional use approval, and that's what we've done. We've tried to put the control back in your hands.
But if they meet all the conditions, the fact that you allow an off-site credit allows them to meet the conditions that if they want to use this 15.21 acres, and that's my stumbling. It could allow that, and that's my stumbling point. I really just don't think it's absolutely safe. The small time you would take to go before the hearing board. And Alan Struckrow and his crew are excellent guys that really know their stuff. It's just not worth us taking this chance.
So, and I understand your concern, but just so you understand the timing, though, we still need this text amendment for a small format hospital. And we can't even go to the zoning hearing board, I don't believe, until we would have a land development plan, ready that would show what we would need to go to the zoning hearing board. So I think that I understand your concern. I hope you understand the timing and the position that we're in, and the necessity for us to be here. So I know that the 2-to-1 ratio concern, I think that would be fairly hard for a lot of people to meet. Allegheny Health Network and CVEST have already located the property that they're going to use to substitute for the steep slope and the resource protection area. So I think it would be very hard for many people to do what they're trying to do. So they've looked all over this area, and this is the best site. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We would be at a different site. This is the best site for their purpose, and I know that we're asking for a lot of changes, and I understand your concern.
Yeah, it's just so critical. I mean, if I have a picture up here of his house, and overlooming it is house 2. There is no resource protection land. It's just too critical an issue with this town.
Well, I ask you respectfully to pass this text amendment so that this hospital can be up in time for your neighbors to get health care. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
We're basically not turning down the hospital. We're just asking to have it
It's just to eliminate
reworded. We're not turning down the hospital.
Irene Caliendo, 411 Haw Drive. Madam President, I respectfully submit that we have excellent access to health care in the North Hills, and that it's unlikely that we can enhance those with another building, although I would be interested to hear specifically what this particular endeavor brings that doesn't already exist. Secondly, I don't believe, although I understand consent decrees and those kinds of time frames and time constraints, but I don't believe that a problem for someone doing business should be a reason why we short circuit our due diligence and our process. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
If I might.
Yes? Either way. Please state your name.
Yeah, my name is David Goldberg, and I'm with Allegheny Health Network, and I love the opportunity, one, to the lady who asked questions about specifics. I'd be glad to give you some particulars related to our project. But I think I want to start by saying what the consent decree is for the council and for others. The consent decree is a real issue that comes June of 2019, that people with Highmark insurance or other types of insurances will be limited to the access for hospital-based care in and around the area. This is one area. There are others in and around greater Pittsburgh and western Pennsylvania that will have this issue. So we've been identifying, we've been working with the staff, we've been working in the community to find us a location in the North Hills that we think, one, would broaden access for those Highmark members who will need access after the consent decree, but also to enhance the health care that we're bringing in and around the area. So it's not particularly a business issue, it's also a health access issue for those that have insurance that will be limited to care. And it's personal to me. I shared this before, and I'll share it in my case. I live here in the North Hills. My insurance is limited to where I can go for hospital-based care, and I've had to leave the North Hills to go down to Pittsburgh to bring my children and family to get care because I'm limited in insurance to access to a particular facility and then have to come back home. This facility opens that access come summer of 19. It is a small format hospital. It'll have a minimum of 10 beds, hospital inpatient beds. It'll have an emergency room. So patients who present with the flu or medical conditions would be able to come to this facility, be part of an integrated delivery network like Allegheny Health Network, for example. They'd be able to come in for care, either admitted for a short stay or emergency room services, and then either be discharged back to home or to the next level of care. That's our plan. We think the site that we chose has great access for those in the north. We believe, as Dusty mentioned, it meets some of the requirements that the community has been looking at in the comprehensive plan related to enhanced health care. We are adamantly focused on bringing and expanding care, and we've been doing that for more than 5 years as AHN has been in place. We don't want to do anything to harm the fabric of the community. We want to enhance it. And as a resident of the North, I want to enhance the ability for anyone who needs care. As we're seeing growth in this area, and I'll close in saying, with more than 250,000 Highmark members in and around the North Hills, I see construction right down here on Perry Highway now with senior centers, expansion of Vincention and others. The opportunity to have more health care is good, not in grand scale, not overbuilding, but giving something and bringing access closer to home in a responsible manner that can be up quickly by the summer, fall of 2019. We believe this project meets all that, and we believe the community will be thrilled when it's up and running. I, again, ask the council, we will follow and work with you closely on anything we need to do to mitigate the issues that the council and the zoning and planning committees are raising. But we think we've met that. We've been working since late fall to date on those issues. We've worked very, very hard in earnest, and we believe that we have a great process in place. We'd love for this to be approved to move for comment with the county and continue to work in process for the public hearing process on this particular text amendment, and then have its due course for a vote. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, good evening. Marcia Caliendo, 380 Mohican. I work up in Pine, and there is a huge AHN pavilion that is presently there that they had announced they were going to build a small hospital there. So I do have a question relative to, is that happening? Is this the replacement for that facility? And I work literally right behind that AHN pavilion. It's a huge facility. There is plenty of access to health care for AHN members. The last thing this country needs is more brick and mortar for the health care facilities. And we really need to integrate our health care better. And just to build up a hospital because your insurance isn't accepted someplace else is not a reason to build another hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments here?
Wait.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't get my hand up quickly enough. Dave Martin, Grubbs Road. I was interested as all the conversation was going on here with the explanations of this, that thought came to my mind of how many beds is this going to be. And this gentleman right here just answered that with 10 beds. So to me, it sounds like it's like an urgent care with first stage triage. So if you have the flu, if you have a cut finger, whatever the case may be, you can go and you can get treatment. But if it's beyond their capabilities to do minor surgeries or who knows what else, take chest x-rays, those types of things, that they're not going to have that, which makes them, to my way of thinking, an urgent care with beds. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
thank you for comments. Any further comments?
I don't, as I'm sitting here listening, I don't think that we're objecting so much to your project. I think what we're looking at are people who may come in the future. Isn't that correct, Greg?
Well, yeah, future land development plans, new land development plans that would seek to get off-site resources. We're interested in protecting our resource protection land, and we're just so you know, Dusty. All you would have to change is 131403D2 and 131403E. The changes made to those provisions.
Okay. So you're suggesting that if we take out the 1314E,
yeah, 1314. The changes made to 131403E and the 131403D2. We would move this forward. I'm pretty sure that's the. I'm trying to find my notes.
yeah, if you can clarify the changes, then we may be able to agree to them.
Well, section 131403D2 on page 1 of your at the bottom there.
The replacement of
mature
woodlands.
Woodlands, young woodlands shall be amended as follows.
Okay.
That change, and the other change on D2 with respect to all the change. D2 has something about no more than 75% of the young woodlands may be disturbed. In other words, don't have any amendments to 131403D2. No amendments to that. Eliminate C, D, and E.
The changes to C, D, and E? Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah.
All right.
And I don't see any change in A or B.
That's right. There's no change in A or B.
Then with respect to steep slopes, 131403E4 has just, you have parts 1, eliminate parts 1 underlined, and then 131403E5 and 6, and that would be it.
Okay, we'll agree to remove those.
Okay, then we'll,
I'd like to have clarification, please, for the record.
Sure.
I'd like to have that repeated.
Make sure we have it right. So,
Absolutely.
so the amendment that's under consideration then, the zoning amendment as amended eliminates, if you're looking at the ordinance as submitted by CVEST, okay? So we're looking at the 3-page document submitted by CVEST.
I have it.
If you go to the bottom of page 1, and Dusty, you're staying with me on this?
I
too,
am.
or-
I'm right with you.
All right, so the bottom of page 1, the last paragraph there, for lack of a better term, it starts section 1314.03 D2, mature woodlands, and so forth, right? So that is deleted. That there down to the bottom of page 1 is deleted. You flip to the next page.
And there's some overflow to the top?
Yes, there's overflow to the top, that's also deleted.
Okay.
And then it goes to, in addition, that stays, A and B stay because there's no changes to those. C, D, and E are all deleted. Okay? Moving on to the very next paragraph, 1314.03 E4 steep slopes. The addition of the number 1 in parentheses is deleted. So that it would say it's set forth in parts 2 and 3 above. Okay, so that's the change for that one. Moving to the bottom paragraph, section 1314.03E. That paragraph is completely deleted. And I believe that runs over to the next page. Running over to the next page, the end of that paragraph and also paragraph number 6, both are deleted. Then we start back up again at parking minimum space in section 1314.09. The rest of it stays as submitted.
That is fine with us.
There has been a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
so with those amendments,
I
okay.
move to accept.
Well, with those amendments, we'll move to accept it.
Well, that's the other, the motion's on the table, is that you looking for further discussion, and then council can vote to move it forward. And again, just so everyone's clear, this is not a vote to adopt this zoning amendment. This is a vote to move the process forward, which means that the zoning amendment draft is submitted to the county for comments. It's submitted back to the town planning commission for comments, and the town will schedule a public hearing 45 days out so that the public will have an opportunity to give their comments and thoughts on this proposed amendment. And at that time, council will vote, or after that public hearing, we'll have an opportunity to vote to enact this amendment and make it part of the town code.
Would you be willing to expedite this as quickly as possible? Because of we've eliminated that. Now we have to go to the zoning hearing board if this passes. So if it would be possible to schedule the hearing while we're going through planning commission and everything so that it will get in the next 30 to 45 days.
Sure, and that's gonna be up to council, but there's certainly no legal obstacle for trying to schedule this as close to that 45-day period as we can from today. So we can do the math and get that scheduled, and that'll be advertised twice in the newspaper, it'll be posted on the town website. So, if council's okay with that, we can kind of make sure we get it as close to that 45 days as possible, so these folks can keep moving.
Madam President,
Yes.
Counselor, would it be appropriate for me to motion to accept the amended proposed draft?
I think we're just accepting the same motion. It's the same motion. The motion
as
hasn't
amended.
It's the same
changed.
motion, just the text as amended.
Text as amended.
As long as everyone's okay with the motion and the second, we can just proceed without trying to run it back through as an amended motion, if everyone's comfortable with this version.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Kirk, for
Okay.
making sure we clean that up.
Are we ready to vote on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we make a new motion that we're going to do it just out loud?
So it's a motion,
Right, but you can't.
right. Well, I can read it for you, and someone could say so moved, though, if that's what you want to do. But there's a motion on the table. Council's ready to act. All you have to do is vote.
It's already on the table.
Okay, if it's as a,
Everyone's clear.
My only
Everyone's clear on
concern
what
is
we're
that
voting
it's
for,
on the
right?
table, but it hasn't been said as amended by the person who
Text
has made the
amendments.
motion.
Text amendments as.
Go ahead, Greg.
Text amendments as amended by,
There we go. Now I'm happy.
we're reflecting the changes that we agreed upon.
Yes. Second.
Well, we have a motion on the table, so we can't just make another motion now. We have to make a motion to amend the motion on the table to reflect the amendments to the text as discussed with council. Someone can say so moved.
So moved.
All right.
Give me 1 second.
Does that count as a second?
And now we need a second.
That was Mrs. Powers and Mr. Mertz.
Okay, now if there can be further discussion and then a vote.
Do we have further discussion? Okay, there's no further discussion. We'll proceed to the vote. The chair will not be participating in the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're anxious.
Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Okay, that's for the
I
amendment.
did. Motion carries. I did. Abstained before. Yeah, I said I wouldn't be voting. Oh. All right, abstaining for the record. Okay. All right, motion carries.
Do we need a motion on the
No,
actual
we're done with
motion is
that.
done?
We're done with that. We're done.
We're proceeding, yes.
We're, number 2.
Madam President, I move to proceed with consideration of a request from Sheetz Incorporated to amend the conditional use standards for a service station within the residential commercial RC zone district, which would change the spacing requirements for a service station in RC zone district to correspond to the spacing requirements in the C3 zone district, allowing 2 service stations to be located at a signalized intersection within the RC zone district, and the scheduling of a public hearing after a completion of reviews by Allegheny County and the Town of McCandless Planning Commission.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second, or is there any discussion from council comments?
This text amendment is to eliminate the 1,500-foot requirement that a gas station cannot be within 1,500 feet of another gas station in a RC residential commercial district. Appears to be initiated by Sheetz because of a dispute between Sheetz and its current lessor. In my opinion, town council should not be changing the town's zoning ordinance for such a matter. We should not be showing favorites, and we should stay out of the dispute. The 1,500-foot rule has been in effect for 24 years since the inception of the RC residential commercial district. I don't feel it should be changed by to aid a party in dispute.
Are there any other comments from council?
Yes, my comment is, I don't think we're favoring anyone, but I do think we would be upgrading that area. If you've driven by there, that area definitely needs some work.
Well, let me just say, so we take the sheets from where it is on Highland and put it across the street, and if the current sheets location can't really take off, it seems like that would be put that area in some type of.
Why are you thinking it wouldn't take off?
Well, if it doesn't, I'm not saying the new sheets wouldn't, because it's
Well, this
confusing.
guy could fall in too.
Yeah, I know.
We should all address the chair.
Are there any other comments?
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Any other comments?
No.
Comments from the audience? Come forward, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Jason Moots. I'm a resident of Montclair Avenue. I've also been a local realtor in the area for 19 years. I also work for one of the top 20 residential home builders in the country. I'm adamantly opposed to the sheets going into my neighborhood. I have 3 big reasons for it. There's inherent dangers with relocating it across the street. Right now it is on a little island bordered by a 4-lane highway, a 2-lane very busy road, and an empty parking lot. If you move it across the street, there are several neighbors in that area that have water drinking wells. Their gas tanks could leak, influence my drinking water, and I would never know. You also have fire risks of the gas pumps as well as the vehicles being almost immediately next door to residential homes, which we just heard from the other town council members. We were very concerned about the buffer area with the hospital. This location does not have a buffer area. It is against residential housing across the street and next door to it. In addition to that, there is something called benzene gas, which evaporates from all the gas pumps. You can Google it. It's going to blow right into all the immediate neighbors' homes, where right now when it's across the street, there is a little bit of a buffer with the highway. There are many communities around the country. I did a local Google, or a quick Google search, that have suggested 400 feet between a gas station with multiple pumps and residential housing for these reasons. You're going to have noise and light pollution from the gas station. I think Sheetz is aware of this because all their other major mega gas stations they built in the area, if you think about it, Mount Nebo, Camp Horn, Wexford, Babcock Boulevard, none of them are in a residential neighborhood. They are all bordered by major commercial. In addition to this, as a realtor, I'll guarantee you our property values on that street will decrease. Close your eyes and picture me showing you a home across the street from the Sheetz. And what would you say with your family compared to that or a fitness clinic that's there now in a swimming pool company that closes down at 5, 6 o'clock at night? Would that influence your decision to purchase that home in the future? In addition, I have articles here from Zillow and Trulia, both very reputable sources for future home buyers. There's an article here from Zillow that referenced one of their surveys. They ranked a gas station as the second worst thing that decreases property value. This is ranked above a bad school district, a funeral home, a cemetery, or a gentleman's club. There is a Trulia article I have here with a blog and discussions with future home purchasers asking, would my home decrease in value if I purchased near a gas station? There was not one positive comment. The general consensus was, well, it depends on how good of a deal you get on the house when you buy it. I also want to mention this. In McCandless right now, there is a former BP in Wexford, a Pizza Hut, a Noodles and Company, a Wendy's, the old DiPietro's site, not to mention the Trader Horn and the Rave Cinemas. All of these to address your question about future development for that gas station site. All of those are far better sites for redevelopment, and they have all been sitting empty for multiple years. This is a small triangle of ground that is really only accommodating a gas station. And I don't see a small-time gas station moving in there anytime in the near future with a giant Sheetz across the road. It will sit vacant and rot away. Sheetz wants to come into my neighborhood and all of our neighborhood. They're going to benefit and make millions of dollars from this project. What are we, the neighbors in this community, getting from it aside from a new nice outdoor seating area or indoor restaurant? I implore all my neighbors here to let Sheetz know they may have the gas, but we as the neighbors in this community have the power.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Wotus. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Goldberg, Caban, and Garvin, here on behalf of the applicant. Initially, there's a couple items that I'd like to address. The first being that there was a comment made that this request came before the board as a result of a neighbor dispute. In reality, where this came from, we ultimately, or previously in January, had presented a conditional use application before the Planning Commission for this use. For the property on the corner of Montclair and Perry Highway. When that was presented before the Planning Commission, it was ultimately recommended for approval and sent to this board for a public hearing to be held on that conditional use application. After that hearing and recommendation, we ultimately looked further at the criteria that was set forth in your existing zoning ordinance, that being, one of which being the 1,500-foot spacing requirement. In review of that, we were concerned that potentially that could not be met or could not be established. So rather than proceeding forward on that, we tabled that and had sent correspondence to the town asking for that. As part of that, we then, in speaking with the planning department, proposed this text amendment that is now pending before council. So this did not come from a neighbor dispute, but rather our concern from going ahead and meeting that criteria in your existing zoning ordinance. So instead of proceeding forward on that, we thought we would address the issue, bring it before council for consideration on a text amendment first. To the extent that that's adopted, then we would ultimately still have to come back for conditional approval and meet the other criteria. Another item that I want to address and just make clear is, although this is modifying the 1,500-foot spacing, this is only for signalized intersections. As discussed 2 weeks ago before council, this is a very small district. It's about 0.7 miles long, and there's only 2 signalized intersections that this potentially could be applicable to. So it's not eliminating it in an RC district, but rather it's going ahead and permitting it just at a signalized intersection, which again is more in line with your existing zoning ordinance for this use. There's also been some additional testimony, obviously, that was presented. What we're asking for, though, is for those comments to be addressed and our full presentation to be made at a public hearing on this item. What's before you tonight is not necessarily an approval of this use, an approval of this text amendment. Rather, it is simply a request that we proceed to a public hearing on it where evidence, testimony, and additional information can be presented to council so that an informed decision can be made on this item. And that includes also the applicant and the public having an opportunity to come and speak at that presentation. And that is also, at that point, you also have your information back from Allegheny County. You'll also have it back, another recommendation from your planning commission, which we believe is also vital to making this determination because, as we all know, you want to have as much information and as many facts as you potentially can have before you make any determination. So what we're asking for is to move it to that step where additional information can be presented. You have everything you need before you, which would ultimately come after a public hearing. And one of the other items that we talked about was just from a rational standpoint, a rationale standpoint, how we got here. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that we were asking for this as a result of our understanding that we could not meet that criteria. So with that being said, understandably, there's a lot of public here that wants to speak, and I would request that they come back ultimately if council chooses to move forward on this. But again, we would just ask that council move forward, schedule this for a public hearing, just so that, again, all the information can be presented before you and a decision can be made at that time by council if they'd like to proceed forward or not on this issue. And knowing that I only have 5 minutes, what I would ask for council's indulgence, though, is we do want to have, I do want to present a little bit of background in terms of what ultimately is being proposed, just to inform council of what will be there potentially if this were developed. But again, it's not before the board for approval this evening, but it's just to give an understanding of what ultimately could be, could be proposed to be developed on that site. So if council will permit, I would just ask that I have 2 other individuals that like to speak, that they could go in succession so that they could follow my comments here.
Okay, that will be fine.
Thank you.
I don't know how I can turn this so everyone can see it. Maybe just put it back against the wall here. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is David Mascher-Stefano. I'm in-house with Sheets in the Store Development Department. My title is Engineer and Permit Manager for this project. I have with me also Mr. H.C. Phones, who's in the Sheets Real Estate Department. Basically, and if you can see this, we're proposing a 4,700 and approximately 4,780 square foot sheet store located on the east side of Perry Highway, catty corner to where the existing sheet store. This site would have the required 35-foot buffer yard in the front. We have one pump canopy with 5 pump dispensers for fueling vehicles. The sheet store to the rear of the lot, parking to the south, a double row of parking for customers, parking in front for customers, and in the rear of the site we would have parking for our employees. We've buffered and landscaped up and down Montclair. We've understand through several meetings, both public meetings and individual meetings with the neighbors and the developer meeting with the neighbors, concerns about lighting and concerns about screening. These are just preliminary plans that we are more than happy to work with staff. We've taken notes on what the neighborhood wants to see and not see, and we're willing to work with both the staff and the neighbors as we move forward, if we get an opportunity, move through the land development process to further enhance both the landscaping and screening and work on a lighting plan that's acceptable to all parties. As part of the road improvements, and this goes to Councilwoman's comment about safety, and we also have a traffic consultant that can address this even further, we're going to be adding a lane to Perry Highway, which will provide on a phase a dedicated left turn onto Old Perry, and then coming south on Perry Highway, a dedicated left turn lane into the Sheets. The neighbors on Montclair will have the opportunity to enter the Sheets development from this proposed entrance on Montclair, which is opposite, and I forgot the name of this, but Amco, opposite one of their driveways, and they can get access to the light for safe egress and ingress onto 19 going either northbound or southbound. So those are some of the improvements for safety that will be brought into this project as it relates to the intersection.
And will that help Gloria coming up the hill?
Yes, that would help Gloria because all those driveways will be signalized and timed appropriately. And all that's going to be done through PennDOT approval process. And Mr. Wooster is our traffic consultant, and he could probably elaborate more on the safety issues and what's involved.
And one item I did just want to note for council is, I think this had been addressed, but this actually is zone C3 in the rear, which obviously is a commercial district. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention where a gas station would be permitted as well within the C3 district, but not a conditional use approval.
Could I also say one thing? The C3 district does not apply.
Excuse me, sir, one at a time. It's there, they have the floor right now.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Not after that long. Okay.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, you say it's a C3, and a C3 is defined in 1331C as a place that fronts an arterial road or a collector road. And do you see that 131 Montclair is doing either of that? An arterial road would be like Perry Highway. A collector road would be like Perrymont or something, a road, Grubbs Road or something like that. But do you consider this dead-end street with approximately 20 houses on it a collector road or an arterial road?
Of course not. And that would obviously be defined by your ordinance what those constitute, or what roads would constitute a collector or arterial. And I know we did have a discussion on this item before the Planning Commission. And as part of this development, it would then ultimately have access onto either an arterial or collector, that being Perry Highway.
Yeah, but I'm going to the question of why the heck should this be classified C3? It's been a residence since 1910. There's a house on it, isn't there?
There is, but
and there was a person lived in that house, didn't they? And
the town zoned that as C3. That was not our zoning. It just happened to
Right.
be part of what we were ultimately proposing to develop. So that was part of the town zoning ordinance and zoning map show that as being a C3. So although you're correct of its use, but
Yeah, its
currently the
use
zoning-
has been a residence. Its use has been a residence, as a residence, personal residence.
Sure, you have uses that sometimes are vary from what it's zoned as.
And
but
it doesn't even meet the definition of a C3. It's a, doesn't front an arterial road or a collector road. I don't see how in the world that should be a C3. That looks like a spot zoning issue if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, it's C3 under the current map.
Right.
I don't believe that what that is zoned is currently before the council, but I was just stating a mere fact that is currently zoned C3.
Do you want to proceed?
Good evening. My name is Chuck Worcester from David E. Worcester and Associates. We're the traffic engineering consultant for the development. We performed the traffic impact analysis, submitted it to the town of McCandless as well as the Department of Transportation, and have worked through to a conditional approval of that traffic study. And I just wanted to point out some of the significant improvements we're going to provide for the intersection as we proceed. As you know, there are no turn lanes at that intersection right now. It is a multi-phase traffic signal with some geometric limitations, some topographic issues with Gloria, and that limit its way that it can operate. Further, it has somewhat a unique situation that you have a driveway to a commercial facility currently in the center of a signalized intersection with no real posted control and no indication of how that's supposed to work. We want to take advantage of that driveway location to incorporate it into a traffic signal, be able to provide for the turn lanes actually within the rights of way that we have, and improve the overall traffic safety at this intersection for both pedestrians and vehicular traffic by providing those turn lanes with exclusive turn lane phases that would really straighten out and create some order into right now what is somewhat haphazardly ordered intersection. There are ways to have improved it further, but it would require significant change to Gloria or one of the other approaches. But by having this approach with multiple lanes and actually signalized as part of the intersection, we can enhance the overall safety of this intersection quite significantly. And that's what we've proposed and got approved through the Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
Good evening. My name is John Rupp. I lived in Montclair for 31 years. And first of all, what I can't figure out, they voted this down 10 years ago. They were going to put a station there. We voted it down. Why all of a sudden do they want to start it up again? The only change I see in 19 is more traffic. Now, nobody talks about that stretch of highway there, starting from Romo, heading north. You can't see what's in front of you. You've got a hill and a slight turn. You can't see, until you get halfway up on that roadway there, you can't see what's in front of you. And Sheets creates a lot of in and out traffic. You're going to have a hell of a lot of accidents up there. Then they're talking about Montclair. There's a bus stop in Montclair. They want to put a entrance on the side of that road in Montclair, and I just can't see it. And I mean, you got traffic coming from Gloria, coming up from Highland. I mean, it's going to be one big mess. And that traffic is getting terrible there. And they want to put a Sheets there. But why did they vote it down 10 years ago? Now they want to build one again there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I think a gentleman in the back is next.
Good evening to you all. My name is Pete Menard, and I am the current
lessor of the property on Perry Highway. And I am here to say, now, I have come in as,
Excuse me, sir, you own the sheets?
we own the property on the 8607 Perry. We own the land. We are the lessors right now.
I just want to make sure.
Right. And
everyone knew what that meant.
exactly. And what I want to say is, when I go through McCandless, and we go through there quite a bit, is that that area, that whole neighborhood has kind of a, I'm not going to use quaint, but you know what I mean. It's got nice folksy kind of a look to it. And when you look at the triangle piece of property that the Sheets is on right now, it's well situated for what it is. Like the gentleman who spoke first said, it is somewhat isolated. It doesn't have a situation where lighting, will affect with other residences, et cetera. It's been doing business as a Sheets for a long time. Now, when Sheets wants to go across the street, and I know what's going to happen, it's going to really change traffic. It's going to, it's just going to change a lot. And what that really will do, my biggest fear as the property owner there is, again, what the gentleman had said there before, is that it's going to take my little triangle piece of property, which has been a productive thing for both my family and for the community, and make it into a triangular wasteland. And that's my concern. I think there will be additional traffic. I remember seeing original drawings when things were presented to the Planning Commission, and I believe that some of those things are going to have a very negative impact on access to our property and utility, to be honest with you. And so that's why I come here to voice my opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Marcia Caliendo, Mohican. I have a procedural question for council. If you pass this right now, and then it goes to planning, and then it goes to the county, and everything comes back, and then there's a public hearing, if I recall, that is what the process is? So if you pass this right now and everything else passes, we've been down this road before where council says, well, they've met all the requirements, we have to allow it, and if not, it's illegal and we'll get sued. So my question is why, if there is doubt, or is there a way to have a public hearing before you pass this so that you really get what the residents of McCandless want? Because if they don't want it, but you've allowed past this and then everything else passes, you throw your hands up in the air and say, well, we don't have a choice, we have to put it there. So that's my procedural question. If you allow this and everything else passes, is there anything that you can legally then do to stop it if that is what the residents would want?
The vote today would include scheduling a public hearing that would occur before council votes on this amendment.
I understand that, but
you said you wanted to make sure that there was a public hearing where everyone came out and had an opportunity to voice their concerns. After that opportunity occurred, then council would continue to discuss it, and then they could either vote it up or vote it down at their discretion. Once the ordinance is adopted, then the applicant would presumably, if it is adopted, that's a big if, obviously. If it's adopted, and the applicant came through and filed their application for a conditional use to actually construct the sheets, then there'd be another public hearing. At that public hearing, you're correct. If the applicant can meet all the criteria in the ordinance, then council has to approve it.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
So this is only to move the process forward towards a public hearing at which all of council or all the public would have an opportunity to speak and say and tell town council how they feel about this zoning amendment. After hearing all of that, then council can say yes, no, or push it off if they wanted to.
So council could legally do something without a legal challenge then from Sheets to say, the residents just don't want it, so sorry, and then.
Yeah, I'm generally not giving legal opinions from the dais here, but council does have discretion as to whether or not they want to approve this zoning amendment or not. Sheets is not alleging that there's some sort of defect in our zoning ordinance. They just would prefer that this amendment occur, and it's up to council as to whether they want to grant it or not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that our hands wouldn't be tied at that point in time. Thank you very much.
But if we approve this zoning amendment and they meet the criteria, then
They would be entitled to approval.
they would
Now,
be
council could-
entitled to approval. I think that's what your question is.
Yes, that
Yeah,
it would
that's
be,
the
you can have a public hearing, but it really wouldn't matter because from a legal perspective, we would have to allow it.
It does matter.
And that would be the second public hearing, though. So the first public hearing would be to determine whether or not the ordinance gets approved. So there's a hearing, council votes it up or down. If council votes it up, the Sheets would file an application, that would trigger another public hearing.
Right, okay.
Specific development that they're proposing, at which, again, the public and the applicant would present evidence. If the council determines that the applicant has met the criteria in the ordinance to develop this service station, gas station, then council would be required to approve it. However, council could put additional conditions on the approval to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents.
And that would be the same issue relative to the small format hospital, or is that a different?
That's a different process. Yes. Yes, the ordinance part of it is the same, but the actual development of the small format hospital would be a use permitted under the ordinance, I believe, not as a conditional use. So they wouldn't have to come back through for another public hearing for the small format hospital. It would just be the public hearing on the amendment itself. I know it's a little complicated, but
All right.
hopefully I did an okay job.
I think so. Thank you very much.
Am I not mistaken,
Go ahead.
Madam President, in thinking that the only criteria that Sheets is not able to meet right now is the 1,500 foot?
That's my impression also.
That's my understanding.
Right.
But also, I'm guessing they wouldn't be up here making that request,
And,
right?
and that's what we would be voting on tonight, to approve that.
All we're doing is voting to move the process forward towards a public hearing at which, after that public hearing, then you would vote to either approve this amendment or not. So this is just to move the process forward or to kill the process, essentially, for the time being.
May I be heard, please?
Yes.
Stevie, I think I've got myself a wee bit, I may be confused, I may not be. In response to the lady who was just speaking, to her comments, we were told that if council were to vote in the affirmative tonight on the motion that's before them, without sounding like it's trivializing it, the only thing that would occur, that would be an opportunity, among other things, for there to be a public hearing at which there will be more robust discussion than has occurred up to this point. And that anyone who is opposed to it for whatever reason can speak to that, or for that matter, if somebody's strongly in favor of it, that can be, and then they too can speak. But at that point, we would, that opportunity would be afforded to them, and then there would be a vote to allow it. Once that second vote, if I can call it that, occurs, then there's no turning back without, because of the legalities. Is that right?
You explained it better than I did, I think, yes.
So, counsel, is there any legal reason, if someone is inclined to let the process move forward so there is this more robust discussion, is there any downside to a member of council voting yes in order to afford that opportunity for those, I guess it'd be those who favor it, but for anybody who wants to speak to the issue?
By voting yes to move it forward tonight, you are not binding yourself to ultimately approve the zoning amendment. You're just, as you said, moving it forward, moving the process forward, so there would be a public hearing, more robust discussion, and reviews by the county and town planning commission.
And that's even if you were an individual who was persuaded that putting the gas station in there is not a good idea. Whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, all that's going to occur is more time for this, what I've called more robust discussion.
That's what a yes vote would do tonight,
Okay.
correct?
And to finish that off, what does the no vote do then?
No vote essentially kills the proposed application. I mean, they could always be resubmitted in the future, but for now, it's a done deal.
Counsel, thank you for your explanation.
Hi, Rita Martin, Grubbs Road. Yes, I think if you shut it down tonight, then it's done and we don't have to go through the machinations. They don't have to do all that work, and we can make that decision for our homeowners and for our taxpayers. They are the ones that count, and I urge you to not move forward because all that work when it's a really bad idea. Thank you.
evening. My name is Stuart Strickland. I live on Eleanor Street, which is just south of the area in question, just off Perrymont. I speak for the population that does not drive. For me to get to Northland Library without using a car, I would have to go right past the current construction proposal. It's already difficult. In order to get from Perrymont Road to Northland Library, for example, or CCAC, I have to cross Perry Highway at least twice because there aren't sidewalks on both sides. There isn't even a sidewalk on one side for part of it. I don't see in this proposal any kind of space allowed for.
That won't happen. They're getting the sidewalk.
They're getting the sidewalk. Okay. In any event, there are those of us who don't drive, and I don't see how this really helps that much.
Thank you.
Dave Martin from up on Grubbs Road. The question I have is we're talking about 2 new left turn lanes, and we're talking about new lights. We're talking about widening streets, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously it's now going to become a 6-way light instead of a 4-way light. Who's paying for that? As a taxpayer of McCandless, I'm against it. From us paying for it. As a taxpayer for the county, I'm against the county putting any money into it, and I'm certainly against PennDOT putting any money into it. I think the developer should be the one who pays for all needed improvements. Thank you.
I think she's next.
Hi, my name is Nancy Rupp, and I live on Montclair Avenue. And I've lived on Montclair for 30-plus years. My concern is a safety concern. There are school kids that wait for the bus stop at the end of Montclair.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have traffic going north on 19 past Roma, and if you're able to make a right-hand turn into Montclair and make a left to get into Sheets, you have children waiting for the school bus. You have kids that go to community college that are late for class in the morning. They fly up 19 to make their class. And that's a safety concern I have. Then they're telling us that when I leave Montclair, I'm going to have to make a right-hand turn into Sheets parking lot, deal with the cars parked, the customers in the store, deal with the cars that are pumping gas. I have to go through Sheets to get to the light, to get onto 19, which is, it's just, I don't know. But anyways, and I live on Montclair, and we have people, we're going to have more people coming down Montclair. Because if they make a right into Montclair and turn left into Sheets and they miss the driveway, they're going to go down Montclair. We own the wooded lot next door to our home. We have a split rail fence. You ride down there right now, and you're going to see someone backed into our neighbor's driveway to turn around, backed into the split rail fence, and you've seen it when you came down, right. And it's happened about 3 times now. Who has to fix it? My husband. Who has to pay for it? My husband. So we're going to have more cars coming down a dead-end street. People that, if they miss that entrance, they're going to Sheets. And so I'm just against this, having them build the Sheets. It's just, I'm just not for it. And like my husband said, they did this 7 years ago. It was shut down. And what changed in 7 years? So that's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
If I could, Dale Greco for the record, RBG Development, the developer of the Sheets. At this intersection, as Chuck Worcester aptly suggested, we are going to make significant improvements to the intersection. To answer your question, 100% of the cost will be borne by the developer and Sheets in combination. And obviously, the intent is to make that signalized intersection safer, a much safer condition, and putting a new phase on the western side. Thank you.
Paul Heckman, 380 Mohican. And the question I have is, I look at this and I go, it's a net gain of 2 pumps, because there's currently 8 pumps, right, at the current station. So 2 pumps, a lot of additional confusion. Do we have a traffic problem there now? I mean, the chief's not here. I go through there all the time, and I see accidents at Cumberland all the time. I can't remember the last time I saw an accident at that intersection. Is it an inherently unsafe intersection that's going to benefit from this? Or are we just looking at a net gain of 2 pumps for a station that looks to be fairly prosperous and busy because it's always full? Sometimes I have to circle back around later on to get gas because it's full. But do we really need the 2 extra pumps to move from this side of the road to that side of the road at this point in time? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jan Zenzer Menard, and my husband spoke just before. He and I own the property where the current Sheets is, 8607 Perry Highway. I think the only thing I am mostly concerned with is keeping the integrity of the property that's already there. You know, that if this gets approved or whatever happens, we're most concerned about the property. We don't want a piece of property sitting in McCandless Township empty. We couldn't afford to do that. So our concern would be all the incoming and outcoming traffic, and if there's any changes that are going to be made that'll be detrimental to our property. And is there anything that's going to change in terms of what we're able to do with that property? And we don't want any of that to happen. So, thank you.
My name is Todd Rule. I own a Comfort Service. We're the heating contractor that is directly across from the Sheets convenience store. And one of the stumbling points with this piece of property has always been the amount of investment that a developer has to put into the project to make it work because of the highway. Now, I've been a resident for 53 years, my entire life. And it's kind of an emotional conversation. My wife and I had this earlier today about the signal and the problems that we have just exiting from our property there, as she was involved in an accident in 2000 coming off of Old Perry Highway, which some people refer to as Highlands. Having the intersection fully signalized is going to be a great asset for our company because we're going to still stay here. And as far as the residents of Montclair are concerned, I think the way it was demonstrated by one of the other speakers was that they had to go through Sheets to make a turn on the Perry Highway, and they do not. They can still go down and make that turn at the end of their street. So I don't see that being an issue. As far as the properties that are concerned, they're there now. I think one of the other speakers said it's kind of a homely kind of look through there. I have a few other words I probably shouldn't say publicly about what it looks like, but I've always tried to keep my property pretty good, but it doesn't warrant further investment on my behalf in this part of the community because the other pieces of property are never going to be improved. It takes someone come in like Sheets or another developer to invest a significant amount of money to overcome the cost of the intersection. There's just no way around it. And it's been squashed in the past because of the intersection and the requirement by the state. So I see it being much safer there. I've come through that intersection as a passenger in my mother's car for my entire childhood. And I've seen a lot of accidents there. and you can hear them from our office when it happens. Fortunately, none of our vehicles have ever been hit other than my wife's accident, but there's probably one there, I'm guessing every 3 months. And as a child, I saw someone laying on a motorcycle on that stretch of highway right there, dead. So it needs the investment. So what my wife asked me today is, could we petition the township to make the investment in the light and make the taxpayers pay for it so that that could be safer? You've got somebody that's willing to make the investment. They're going to transfer from one side of the road to another, and you make it more convenient. The math on the pumps is there are 3 pumps there now, 6 stations, and there'll be 5 pumps now. That goes to 10 stations. So that's 4 more pumps. So there's no congestion associated with this piece of property like there is with the one across the street. So I see it as an improvement. It may not be a perfect scenario for everybody, but from a community perspective and safety on that corridor of the highway, it's definitely an improvement. The other part that I'd like to explain is that when I purchased the property in 1994, it was all commercial property. And I'll apologize to anybody in the room that thought it was a great idea to turn it into Perrysville, but that's the only reason it was changed to the RC zoning district. There's been more commercial property developed there than residential property, and there will not be anybody investing in building a home on that stretch of highway. It's never going to see the Perrysville activity. Somebody dropped the ball here. They had a grandiose idea of changing that to a 2-lane highway. It never came to fulfillment. It's never going to come to fulfillment, period. This is the best hope that this intersection has to be safe. So I'd encourage you to get it to the next level.
My name's Henry Phones. I'm with Sheets. We've been a member of this community for 34 years at that location. The property currently has a 2,100 square foot building and 3 multi-pump dispensers, as indicated. We could not rebuild the facility we have at that location now. We consider that to be a brand eroder. The building and facility is functionally obsolete. Some of the reason everyone thinks it's so busy, not that it isn't busy, but because the site's too small and it's very congested for what it is. We tried on several occasions to approach the college and acquire additional property to expand that facility, and we have been unable to do that, and that's why we have returned to this location. But this is a facility that Sheets will close eventually. Again, it no longer represents our brand.
All right, one more.
Hi, my name is Michael Gronsky. I moved into 136 Montclair Avenue in April of 1977. The house across the street from me is the one that the zoning was in question, C3 zone, I believe it was. And it's directly across, the house has been there across the street from me since all the while I've been there. The zoning on that place was done in 1948. And that was a time when no businesses were allowed to be open on Sundays, okay? 24-hour businesses were unheard of back then, okay? And Montclair is the only residential street in the township that I can find with a lot that is zoned commercial that does not also border a highway or main artery. That's a mistake that should have been fixed way back when, okay? Now, the way it is now, right across from my driveway, I'm gonna have their dumpster. Odors, insects, pests, raccoons, rodents, dogs, cats, etc. will be right across from my driveway. The school bus stops right at the corner of Montclair and Perry Highway. The kids sit there on the corner, okay, at the Amco transmission corner. They're going to be coming onto Montclair and making a left into the Sheets. And it's a very, very dangerous situation, very dangerous, okay? The noise from the business is gonna be there, okay? Although on Dead End Street, I moved in over 40 years ago, okay? And it's gonna be 24/7 all around making noise. Smells from occasional gas spills are inevitable. Traffic issues I see traffic getting worse, not better. Right now, they're on the right-hand side of the highway. People going down the highway, picking up their stuff, their coffee in the morning, make a right turn in, make a right turn out. Now, everybody's going to be making a left turn in and a left turn out. You're going to end up with more traffic on Perry Highway, okay? Lights will be shining all night, all year long. Community college students crossing the highway to go to Sheets. Right now, they go right down the sidewalk, get their stuff, and go back. That's great. It works for them. Now you're going to have all these pedestrians crossing the street every day, all day long, during the school year. The higher likelihood of crime, robbery, theft in the neighborhood, especially when they have beer sales there. They're going for beer now, too. Don't forget that. I have grandchildren I like to play in the yard with. There will be a lot of concern with them if that Sheets goes in. Chances of emergencies like fire, accident, and explosion has greatly increased with the gas station. Montclair is a dead-end street, so if the entrance is blocked, there's no other way out. Okay? Most houses on the street, including mine, have wells. They could get gasoline in them from leaking tanks. There's a risk of getting fumes in them. And last but not least, my home value will be reduced. I've lived in it for 41 years, and I'm going to lose a good piece of my life investment, all because of a zoning mistake that was made in 1948. I thank you.
All right. There's been a motion and a second and discussion. And I want to remind everyone what we're actually voting for here, to proceed with the consideration of the request from Sheets to amend the conditional use for a service station, which gives it 1,500 feet, to eliminate the 1,500 feet distance at a signal intersection. Okay, remind everybody where we are. So all those in favor of proceeding to consider this request, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, we'll be voting.
Ward 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Ward 5?
Nay.
Ward 6?
Nay.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
The motion already carries.
Most of it carries. There's 4 votes to.
4. 4 to 2, the motion passes. Okay, number 3, Trey.
I move to accept the letter of resignation from D. Lamar Oliver as a member of the Uniform Construction Code, the International Fire Code, and the Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Lamar Oliver. All those in favor indicate by. Was there any discussion? I didn't think there was any discussion. I would refuse to let it. Any discussion from the audience? No. Okay. All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Finance and Personnel Committee.
Madam Chairman, I move to ratify check listing number 4 dated March 8th, 2018 through April 4th, 2018, totaling $835,826.02 as submitted to each member of council as posted on the bulletin board.
Is there a second? There's been a motion and second to ratify the checks. Is there any questions or any comments from council? Any questions, comments about the bills from the audience? Okay, hearing none. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting, ratifying the check listing, indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 10 of the 2018 series, a resolution declaring the town's intent to destroy non-permanent obsolete public records in accordance with the schedules and procedures for disposition of records as set forth in the Pennsylvania Municipal Records Manual approved on July 16th, 1993, and as amended.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. This is standard for getting rid of non-pertinent information to try to keep some kind of control on all the papers that we have. Is there any comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from any citizens in the town about this? All right, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of approving this resolution, number 10, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Public Works Committee?
Madam Chairman, I move to award a contract to Youngblood Paving, the lowest responsible bidder for construction and repaving of various town roads under 2018 paving program at a total bid price of $2,176,000 or $176,020.70.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Our town manager has a comment to make about this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The paving program specifications call that the bid be awarded on the base bid and optional items in combination. So that's what this amount is. The base bid item is $1,721,786, and the optional items $454,234. So the total leads to the $2,176,020.70. The town does not intend to take the option item for concrete curb or island on Blazier Drive. So that would we will not use $158,630 of that total bid. Also, we have reduced the work on Blazier Drive by approximately $30,000. That would bring the use of this contract down to under $2 million, which is $1,987,422, which is under our $2 million budget. The only potential that could exist would be that some of the optional work could lead to repairs that are in the sub-basin once some of the streets, as the asphalt is being removed. Should that lead to additional work, it would be reported to town council before we would proceed, in the event that would even get close to that price.
So all those overages, if there were any, would have to be approved by town council. So we are staying within our, it looks like we're going over our budget, but we are in fact not going over our budget. Any other comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of awarding the contract to Youngblood Paving indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Is there any unfinished business? Okay, new business. New business?
I move to adopt resolution number 11 of the 2018 series, a resolution supporting an amendment to the Pennsylvania Constitution, which would create an impartial citizen redistricting commission to draw congressional and state legislative districts within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any comments from council?
Madam Chair, I believe that I cannot support this motion. There are 67 counties in Pennsylvania. And right now, 50 of those counties are controlled by Republican majorities. And so the question has to be asked, is this another case of gerrymandering? In fact, these lines were drawn over 100 years ago. So when you take away the labels and the district lines and the political boundaries, we can see that the people still elect their representatives. What we're really talking about here is a political process just like elections. It's not perfect. And no citizen board, no computer program or solution will change that. In fact, I believe our focus should be on the abuses that occur from time to time. Now, the most notable example locally, and this was mentioned by the Fair Districts folks at our last meeting, was the utter destruction of former state representative David Marinick's seat in Ross Township by the Democratic leadership as a disciplinary hammer against his independence. I agree these abuses need to end on both sides, but I do not think it requires a constitutional amendment. I believe that some common sense rulemaking and reforms, starting with increased transparency in this process, is what is required to curb these abuses. Under our Constitution, this responsibility, I believe, was wisely placed with our democratically elected representatives, accountable to us, the voter. It would be unwise to create another unaccountable, nameless board when we daily see the results of these organizations, such as the PWSA board or the Turnpike Commission. While this is a well-meaning effort, it reminds me of the adage that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I appreciate the effort to reform the process. I think it can be done more quickly and more easily with transparency and common sense rulemaking.
Any other comments from council?
Just wanted to add, in general, I agree with what Bill said, and it does give me pause that there are elected representatives of whatever party. They were charged with the responsibilities for setting the election boundaries. And we saw so I think that's the way it should stay. I'm just not comfortable with some to-be-determined group of anonymous individuals to be charged, picked, selected. It's not clear selected. How would they be selected? And charged with doing the boundaries. The last issue with us, we all know that this was the boundaries were reviewed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They end up with four judges deciding how something should be done. I'm a proponent of the people who are elected by the people deciding what the boundaries ought to be, not some board who's effectively usurping the authority of the state legislature, Democrat or Republican.
Any other comment?
Madam President, it seems to me that the two bills are pretending that gerrymandering has no effect on anything, yet they're uninterested in changing the fact that it would have no effect on anything.
Any other comments?
Well, if I could respond to that, I respect.
Please address the chair.
I respectfully submit that I'm not sure that I understand what that last remark really means. Clearly, I suspect that all the council members sitting there, and maybe most of the people in this room, are opposed to gerrymandering. But that's different than saying that the establishment of the voting boundaries ought to be done ought to be done by our elected representatives. I think it's clear.
Well, I'm sorry.
Do you have a comment?
I'm done.
Would these impartial citizens be appointed by someone that you give them authority?
What this amendment, they would, and I don't know that that's even been worked out. What this amendment does is it says that we would support an amendment to the Constitution to create an impartial citizen redistributing commission. So it doesn't say that we're approving of how they would do it or that we're indicating how it would do it. It's just that we think we're not happy with how it's done now, and we think that citizens would be a better way of doing it. That's my understanding of this, of what this says from her explanation. So, and I think through the presentation they were pretty clear that hasn't really been worked out exactly how that would be. So there is some uncertainty there. Finding impartial citizens is a hard thing to find anymore, let alone being picked.
Madam Chair, that would be my question. Who would select this group of people that would do this? How would they be selected?
That was not indicated in the presentation. I think I'm correct with that. I think they did say that. Any other comments from council? Okay, we'll take comments from the audience then.
Ryan Sullivan, I live up on Grubbs. I'm sorry, on LeGrand. I have a very simple comment, and
Where you live.
it's off of Grubbs. And obviously, there's people here who can speak better to it, but I think the idea, from my perspective, is that when voters pick representatives, the concern is that then the representatives go back and pick their voters, and that's the cycle that we're trying to break. And the idea is that you then select voters who are arguably picked in an objective way that actually is pretty well defined. It's just that the resolution doesn't specify it because there might be some negotiated changes to it, but that then the voters still pick the process by which they pick the representatives.
Thank you. And any other comments?
Larry Schweiger. I live on just right up the street. I live on LeGrand Drive. In 1968, when the Constitution of Pennsylvania was amended to address this issue, it frankly was a very different world then than it is today. The world we had then was when lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, I worked at the state legislature back in those days, would sit down, smoke cigars, and make a decision about how these district lines were drawn. Today, that's not the way it's done. It's a high-tech, high data-driven system. The day when we pick our lawmakers is over. Our lawmakers are now picking us. They're also gerrymandering these districts dramatically. If you look at the district, our congressional district that was just changed went from the Ohio line all the way to Johnstown. Now, you tell me that's a compact and reasonable district. It was not. And it was set up because the lawmakers had very sophisticated data systems that we're now debating in Washington over some of this shenanigans that are going on. It's time to change this. If democracy is going to survive, it's going to survive with reasonable districts established by independent citizens who work on drawing good lines. And we see in other states. Iowa, for example, has a great system that follows the same pattern. So this can be done. It has to be done, or we're going to end up having our lawmakers continue to pick us, and they will rig the system, and we will not have a voice. Thank you.
Hi. This is somewhat intimidating for me, but I'm going to try, so bear with me. I do support an independent.
Would you say your name, please?
My name is Diana Hull, and I live in Almar Drive. But I do support an independent citizens commission because I think that gerrymandering is a really big threat to our democracy, and that really concerns me. It concerns me for my children and the future of the population, for our state and our country. Gerrymandering is a form of voter suppression. And any time there's a situation whereby our voters are intimidated or their thoughts are limited, it's a serious threat to our elections as well as responsible government. Recently, I took a petition that was asking our legislators to pass this independent citizen commission around to my neighborhood, going door to door, asking people about this. And I was surprised. A lot of people support this. They signed my petition, and they thanked me for what I was doing. So I'm asking you, the town of McCandless, to please pass this resolution so that we will have districts that are drawn fairly by an independent commission so that we can resume accountable government.
Thank
you. Good evening. My name is Glenn Nelson. I live on Carriage Hill Road, and I'd like to thank you for having fair districts on your agenda this evening. I know your agenda has been quite full, so I'm going to be brief. I had to write this down because this issue, I think, is so critical to enabling a better governing process. The resolution that we are asking you to support is really not a political issue, but I think rather it's a citizen's issue. Each citizen should have the right to a vote that really counts. Gerrymandering steals that right by either party. In the past, both of them have participated in gerrymandering, abusing the rights of voters. That's why we're asking you to support a process where voting districts are established by an independent citizens commission and not by political parties. The goal of the resolution we're asking you to pass is to ensure citizens within municipalities like McCandless are not victimized by gerrymandering, nor do we want our municipality victimized. Therefore, and I would like to ask the supporters of this, if there are any out there, to stand for a minute so you know who we are. Okay. We ask that you join us in working to end gerrymandering by passing this resolution. Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
I'm going to make mine as brief as possible. I don't believe there's any difference between the Democrat-Republican parties. We really are a representative republic. We are not a democracy. But there's no representation whenever the party bosses and the political party that's in power is able to rig the election so that they get voted in every time over and over and over again. Nobody will ever support, no politician will ever support term limits because that kills the golden calf.
I would.
Okay? Anyway, bottom line of the whole situation is we need change, and the change can't come from the politicians because they're so embedded and inbred that there's not going to be any change or any difference from them. Okay? As Kirk over here said something about a highway paved with good intentions, I say it's more like Forrest Gump's mother said, stupid is as stupid does. And if we continue to let the politicians draw the boundary lines, it's our fault. And it's our fault, too, because we never vote the bums out. Thank you so much.
I'm Suzanne Broughton. I live at 400 Cumberland Woods Drive in one of the real additions, wonderful additions to your community, Cumberland Woods Village, which I discovered 7 months ago, and I'm really happy with. I'd like to just sort of, I had not intended to speak again, because I spoke to you last Monday, but I'd like to. Ms. Powers, you asked about how it would be selected. In the packet that I gave you last week, after the pages that are printed on paper like this, you will get to a page that's on glossy paper, and there is a chart, and that chart compares the way the state legislative districts are selected today with a detailed listing of the way the bills plan to do the new selection. So I hope you might have a chance to look at that. Larry Schweiger, an old friend of mine, pointed out to you the long, thin District 12 that goes from the Ohio line to Cambria County, to Johnstown. There's one thing about that he didn't tell you, but I think I mentioned it last time, and I think I'll repeat it. If you look at that district, and there are maps in what I gave you, you'll see, yeah, it does. I should put this down. It does that, but about a third of the way from the Ohio line, you see a little squiggly thing going up from the district that's the city, and that sort of breaks that line up, and that's the Allegheny Valley, and that's where voters who tend to vote Democratic because those are union jobs in power plants and some industry, and they've simply been pulled out of that district and packed into the city where their votes don't count because the city already will vote overly Democratic. So that's not only has it been gerrymandered in this long thing, it's been gerrymandered further to take voters that the gerrymanders don't want there out of that district. And this is what goes on. I would have all of the sympathy in the world for Mr. Kirk and Mr. Kim. In any obvious way, I'm not sure how to say this, but it has made sense for a number of years, since 1968, and incidentally, 1968 isn't very long ago, to have our legislators do it. Unfortunately, they have behaved like the proverbial kid in the cookie jar, trying to get as much as they can before mama comes along and slaps them on the backside and tells them to stop. They have simply, they have overreached. People have talked about the court overreaching. They have overreached. I don't know whether, well, these districts, because they're safe, they give the leadership a tremendous amount of power. The leadership can simply say to somebody that doesn't vote well, and you pointed that out. In fact, that happened with the Democrats. And as a matter of fact, I think that was a matter of collusion. Both parties supported that. And that can happen. The leadership now has tremendous power. Does council know what happened last week in the House State Government Committee? You do. You follow this stuff. I'm going to tell you. House Bill 722 has been sitting in the House State Government Committee for quite a while, since whenever, last May, I think. And the chair of that committee, who is Representative Darrell Metcalf, has simply said he will not do anything about it. He will not release it. This is one person with the power to determine whether the entire legislature gets to vote on that bill. We've seen a lot of that.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your 5 minutes is up.
You don't want to hear this story.
I want to hear the story, but I have,
you know what?
I have to be fair to everyone.
Ask
I'm so
me,
sorry.
Ask me afterwards.
Ask you afterwards. Perfect.
He
Thank you.
definitely violated the House Rules of Procedure.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Anico. I live on Victory Road. I just want to point out that politicians in Pennsylvania have shown no tenacity or ability to control themselves with redistricting. It would be nice if there was transparency and stuff to do this, but that doesn't happen. If you look at the history of like District 12, it swung up and down the southwestern corner of the state, forcing person into person in primary battles. And there was absolutely no reason for this. These weren't contiguous districts. These districts were shifted and pushed just to cause primary battles. And again, that was the political party in power doing that. And we're seeing the same thing in Ross Township. So when the politicians get a chance, to draw the districts, then the deals get made. And the idea of the Supreme Court redoing it, it's the Supreme Court anyway right now. I mean, that's what happened anyway. It went to the Supreme Court, so it's already going to the Supreme Court. The independent commission is 4 people from the main party, 4 people from the secondary party, and then 3 people from parties not affiliated with any of those. And then the redistricting has to get agreement from all 3 parties. And if people, if there isn't agreement from all of those, it doesn't happen. And then there's going to be public hearings across the state. And you compare that to what we have now, we have nothing now. I mean, we just have people doing whatever they have. So historically, I agree, it would be nice to vote the bums out, but the way these districts are created is we're a 50-50 population in Pennsylvania, and we've got 5 seats Democrat and 13 seats Republican. And so you tell me like that hasn't been fair at all. This system is not working as is. And this is modeled after other systems in other parts of the country too. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. So I appreciate you giving us the time to talk. We have shown ourselves incapable of doing this. And this will continue. Even if the Democrats win, they'll do it. And if it ends up being split, then they're going to just split it down the middle. So politicians should not be drawing their own districts. And I appreciate your time. I hope you do support this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kurt Kuntz, and I'm a lifelong resident of McCandless. I think that what we are asking you is to get behind the people. This is a bipartisan issue. It can swing for Democrats or swing for Republicans, depending on who's drawing the lines. The legislature has shown through the districts they've drawn in the past that they are not up to the responsibility of drawing fair district lines. And the people are really behind this. Our Senator Randy, if somebody could pronounce his name for me, I'd say it right. Thank you. I was at a meeting with him, and I presented these postcards that we had. And he said, boy, I've never seen so many postcards. His point was, I'm really tired of hearing about this. I've got so many of these postcards. And the point that I wanted to come back to him with is that that's because the people really care about this. This is something that Democrats and Republicans both can get behind. And what we're asking you is to show your support for the general population of this town and say that, yes, we too would like to see districts drawn fairly and that there is a better way of doing it. You know, it's really asking you to show your support for us. So in spite of what party you may be with and whether you feel that the legislature could come around and make this work better than it did the last time around, I think that this solution that Fair Districts is offering through the House Bill 722 and the Senate Bill 22, those are really the right answers as to way to fix this in the long run. And it's going to be a lengthy process to get this through a constitutional change. But we really would like to see you show your support for all the people of this town and pass this resolution to support us on this issue. Thank you.
Good evening. Bill Barrow, 88 Donna Drive. I apologize for my attire, but I stopped in to check the lottery numbers at 7 o'clock and looked at Facebook and saw this on the agenda and said, I have to come. And speaking with the people who have already spoke, it's quite an honor. Speaking in front of you, it's quite an honor as well. And I think we might be stepping into a brave new world for McCandless, and that would be totally an honor. But I think I do have to correct the record somewhat. I happen to be a member of a block that is the second largest block of eligible voters in Pennsylvania. And I've done the research, and Bill knows where I'm coming from. I've bored him to tears with this stuff over the years. But that is those who are not Democrat and not Republican. And we are the second largest block of eligible voters in Pennsylvania. And we have yet to have a seat at the table as far as what districts we're voting in. We only get to vote in half the elections as well. We have to pay for all of them, but we only get to vote in half of them. This and a number of other reasons is why the Helsinki Accords have found that Pennsylvania is not a good place for democracy. And I think it's about time that we start addressing these issues. And I certainly hope that you see your way clear to jump on board with the fine work that's being done here. And I thank you for the time to speak to this, and I hope for a brave new day in McCandless. Thank you.
You guys are going to wish I still had mono. Marcia Caliendo, McCandless. I'd like to read a statement from Deanna Alfonsi, who's a McCandless resident of 3-3, small business owner. She is on the implementable committee, and she had a work commitment tonight and couldn't be here. It has come to my attention that Fair Districts is submitting a proposal for our town to consider adopting a resolution. I have attended a Fair Districts educational meeting in the past and have continued to receive communications of their ongoing efforts for the past couple of years. I was extremely impressed with the quality of the original presentation. It was a great civic learning experience to understand how the drawing of district lines works and how it affects our voting processes and ultimate representation in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Beyond that, it was extremely eye-opening to see how the process has become so compromised over the years that Pennsylvania is known as one of the most gerrymandered states in the nation. The Fair District has come up with hopeful to see the resolution to be adopted by the town of McCandless. Having local support is very important. It's a very important step to building a support from the ground up approach to ultimately restoring balance to our state level as well. The work that Fair Districts has done in this regard has been some of the most impressive work I've ever seen in terms of their knowledge, their organization, and their impact with nonpartisan approach. I strongly support and recommend that the Fair District's proposal be accepted by the town of McCandless. Thank you. And I just want to go on to say that Senate Bill 22 has 22 sponsors, 8 Republican, 14 Democrat. House Bill 722 has 110 sponsors, 38 Republican and 72 Democrats. This is bipartisan. This is not a partisan approach. And Councilman McCann, I just wanted also to speak to what you had said about 4 judges. Yes, 4 judges in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court passed this, but it was upheld by the U.S. Court of Appeals, the 3 district judges. Those 3 judges were appointed by Republican presidents, and the Supreme Court of the United States declined to hear our case. And our representative for our region is Justice Scalia. So if that doesn't scream partisan, I don't know what is. Democrats and Republicans believe that this is something we must do. Thank you.
Any other comments? I actually have a comment. Every commentary that I have ever heard uses Pennsylvania as an example of one of the worst examples of unrepresentative districting in the country. And I've read several things and I've listened to many commentaries, and it's always very sad that we are named as the top 2 worst. Also in the Constitution it says, unless absolutely, in the Pennsylvania Constitution, unless absolutely necessary, no county, city, incorporated town, borough, township, or ward shall be divided in forming either a senatorial or representative district. When you look at how our districting is, this should have just been declared unconstitutional and been done with. Having said that, again, just to go back over the motion so we know what we're voting on, it would be to support an amendment for the Pennsylvania Constitution that would create an impartial citizen redistricting, I'm getting tired, commission to draw congressional and state legislative districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Roll call.
Ward 2,
Nay.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Nay.
Ward 5.
Aye.
Ward 6.
Aye.
Ward 7.
Nay.
Ward 1.
Aye. All right, now we have time for public comment, if anybody else has anything to say. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. I'm sorry. All right, I think, Mr. McKim, you're doing this one? Excuse me.
Or I can.
7B. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Move to approve town participation in the North Hills Council of Governments, NHCOG, collective cable franchise negotiations with Verizon and Comcast as shown in the draft of NHCOG agreement and cost-sharing plan.
Second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any comments? This just puts our weight behind with the COG so we have more negotiating power, so maybe we can get a better deal. That's what this is about. Any other comments from council? Any comments from the citizens? Okay, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
This is only for Verizon and Comcast. It doesn't include Consolidated.
It's all of the collective cables.
Those are the two only ones we have.
Those are the two that are expiring.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Those are the two that are expiring.
Okay, but Consolidated's part of this then?
It's
different
not,
time frame.
It's not
Their
expiring.
franchise agreement is not near
Thank you.
expiration.
Any other comments?
Carolyn Gibbs, Castleton Drive. Thank you. McCandless now stands on the right side of history. Thanks.
All right, all those, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of entering in with the COG for negotiating with Verizon and Comcast indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Now it's time for public comment. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn into executive session?
I move to enter into executive session to discuss collective bargaining.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. There will not be any more meeting after we come out of executive session. We'll just adjourn then, so you don't have to wait.
Thank you.